You need some new metal to listen to? I got you. Welcome, metalheads. I'm the host of Heavy Metal Philosophy and writer for Metal Digest, JonBarbas. Make sure you stick around to the end of the episode for this week's album art of the week. It's the weekend. That means we got new metal albums to talk about, and I'm bringing you my 5 favorite. But as always, before we do the top 5, let's talk about some of the big album releases this week. And really, it doesn't get much bigger than this. We've finally got a new Killswitch Engage record called The Consequence. Now, y'all let me know in the comments if you have a similar experience to me. I'm friends with a lot of different kinds of metalheads. I'm friends with guys that only listen to death metal. I'm friends with people that only listen to black metal. And then I'm friends with people that only listen to radio metal. But if we're all on a road trip together, we can put on Killswitch Engage and all of us are happy. My wife is happy. My hard-ass friends are happy. Pop rock friends are happy. Everybody loves Killswitch Engage. Am I right or am I wrong? And speaking of Killswitch Engage, there's a new record from Horizon Ignited called Tides. This Finnish band is another master of mixing that Gothenburg Melo-Death sound with metalcore and getting that nice, punchy, but also beautiful metal sound. All right, no more beauty for the rest of the episode. Now let's get ugly. And there's a new record from Traitors called Phobias. This is deathcore, but it's not that stereotypical deathcore that comes to mind when I say the word. This one has a lot of hardcore vocals mixed with the monster noises and a little bit of nu metal sprinkled in there as well. And lastly, before we jump into the top 5, we have finally got the long-awaited full-length record from Phil Anselmo's black metal band Scour. The record is called Gold, and it is super heavy. If you hadn't have told me Phil Anselmo was in it, I wouldn't have known it was him. He really goes for it on this one. I was waiting to hear that southern drawl. It never comes. My man is full-on fry screaming and false chord screaming, and the guitars are relentless. Like, this isn't, oh, Phil's doing something that's like blackened. No, this is a full-on blackened death record. Full stop, extreme, from beginning to end. I got my hands on this one early. I know what that means. My written review's already published in Metal Digest. Links in the description to all my writings. And if this sounds exciting to you, just wait till the next episode of the podcast. More on that later. Now let's do the top 5. Coming in at number 5, Piss Grade with Malignant Worthlessness, death metal out of Philly. And this one is noisy and abrasive and cacophonous. And I'm not doing that colloquial death metal thing that we do where we describe something as filthy and disgusting, but it actually means it's good. No, this really is a hard record to listen to. It's just mixed so far up front. Every instrument is going full out. The snares just dot, 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 dot in your ear the entire time. I kind of like it. I kind of like how it just beat me over the head, and they don't slow down for anything. Dynamics be damned. Just headbang as long as you can and then get the F out. Coming in at number 4, Abduction with Existentialism Us. I don't know, there it is on the screen. And as always, every band's Bandcamp is in the description so that these albums are easy to find. This is black metal out of the UK. Now, black metal has a long and storied tradition of, rejecting modernity and revering nature, and this definitely reveres nature and rejects modernity, but it's a little bit different. It's not contempt of modernity, it's horror. It's witnessing what has become of us and recoiling away, and a bit of fear at what's going to happen. It's got that harsh black metal energy, but then every now and again you hear these subtle little vocal shifts that are more emotional and less shrieky, almost from a different genre of music. It's only for a moment, just subtle, but it's just enough to let you know that this guy's not as angry about it as he is kind of mournful of what could have been. And I also hear a little tinge of maybe not hope, definitely not hope, but maybe hope for one day having hope. Coming in at number 3, Shell Shock with War Eternal. This is death metal out of LaGrange, Georgia. Now, I'm from Georgia. I'm familiar with LaGrange. And I'll tell you, not really a big thriving metal scene there, especially not extreme metal. So any support you can give this band, let's give it to them, because I guess we're going to need them to be more regional and national to get these guys out there. But this record is killer, so they deserve it. This is some Warhammer themed death metal, and right away when I say that, you might be thinking, oh, like Bolt Thrower, and yes, very similar to Bolt Thrower. A little bit more modern sounding, not as old school, but definitely has the groove and the reverence for the Emperor and war and chainsaw riffs, and I just love it. All right, here's my weird one for the week. Coming in at number 2, Seventh Station with On Shoulders of Giants. This is an international prog band. Now, when a lot of critics write reviews for albums, you might see them say something to the effect of, this is nothing you haven't heard before. Okay, well listen to this record then, because I've never heard anything like this. This is progressive without the extravagance. It's avant-garde without the pretentiousness. But the approach of it, they come at it from all these different famous composers. It sounds like if Mr. Bungle took on classical music, but then hired a bunch of European traveler musicians to join in. To listen to this album is to just be constantly surprised at what they're doing and what sounds you're hearing. I rated it a 9 out of 10. It is amazing as a musician. But with that said, I don't know how often I would listen to this on the regular. It's just so weird. But when I want to be reminded of how good and grand and amazing music can be, I will definitely come back to this one. If I want to just caveman out in the gym, maybe not this one. Either way, I just cannot believe what I heard, and I want to tell you about it. This is an amazing one. Check it out. Hey, before we do number 1, I just got something I want to say to you real quick. If you love metal, the way that I love metal, then you're in the right place. You should join the heavy metal philosophy community, because that's all we do here. Let's talk about the best new metal albums and analyze the philosophy behind it. Now, next week when we do the best new metal album show, I'll have a fun little announcement for you. So stay tuned for that. And also, you don't want to miss the podcast, because I've gotten so many interesting guests lined up and a few hot takes to throw at you in between. But most importantly, if you like any of these bands, hit that like button. Now let's do number 1. Coming in at number 1, Retromorphosis with Salmus Mortis, tech death out of Sweden. I think some of the other guys are in other countries as well. Now, tech death fans, y'all will recognize the Spawn of Possession in Curso album cover here. And then unfortunately, after that landmark record, this band split up. Well, almost all the guys are back together again, but now they formed a new band called Retromorphosis. Why did they not lean on the goodwill that they built under the Spawn of Possession name? Well, because this band is different. On last week's podcast, I sat down with Jonas and talked to him, and he explained why. I'll have a link for that at the end, but I'll just give you the TLDR. This is a different band. That band was highly technical, and this one's more old school. But let me tell you something. Those guys, they can't not be at least a little bit technical. They're just too good. So it's funny to me that when they release a record that's less technical, it's still more technical than most of the other tech death bands out right now, save for like Arcspire, the most extreme of the extreme. But this time they are more content to just ride on the chug and caveman it up a little bit, and I love that. So that's why this one's number 1. If you like it heavy, this is the place to get heavy. And we're not even done yet, because we still got Dealer's Choice and Album Art of the Week. Let's go. All right, here we are. Once again, Dealer's Choice allows me to break my own rules. I don't normally do splits. I focus exclusively on full-length albums. But here we are. I've got a split for you. Necronomicon Ex Mortis teaming up with Blood Feast Ritual, one from Chicago, one from California. And this is when bands should do splits together. I understand the general concept. Hey, let's expose your fan base to our fan base and vice versa. And sometimes it works, and sometimes I'm like, why'd y'all do this? This is not one of those latter times. These bands go together so well. Both are horror-themed death metal. Both are super groovy. One is a little bit more old school, but they just complement each other so well that it highlights each other's strengths. There's a neat little interlude song that breaks up the split, but for the most part, it's just full-on death metal, and I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I hope that this works out for both bands. Let's grow them up together. And now, let's do the album art of the week. My favorite album art this week comes from Scare. In the end, was it worth it? It's a hardcore band out of Canada. And sometimes simplicity does an amazing job. Look at that. You've got the visage of death and basically black and white, but not quite, which also makes this striking. And then just the simple message. In the end, was it worth it? If I saw this lying in a bin of records at the record store, that would immediately jump out at me. I love this album cover, and I like the music too. It's got the fury of hardcore with the abrasiveness of sludge and a pretty thick blackened edge to it. And they do some atmospheric stuff. There's some genre novelty. For instance, you might hear some tremolo-picked black metal riffs, but then instead of blast beats behind it, you got more of a rockabilly, punk rock sort of drum paradiddle or rudiment or something. It just gives it this little slight subtle difference that stands out. It's not crazy and weird sounding like Seventh Station, but it just stands out from the rest of the bands with these simple choices like this simple album art. So make sure you check out Scare. Now, before we close, I just want to say I hope you enjoyed last week's Retromorphosis podcast where Jonas explained why they changed from Spawn of Possession to Retromorphosis. And if you're excited about the Scour record that dropped this week, make sure you're subscribed so you catch the podcast Tuesday. I've got a special guest there. You don't want to miss that. Once again, if you want to catch that Retromorphosis podcast, just click right here. But most importantly, read philosophy, listen to metal. I